Suzy from CDI. I am hanging up my tap shoes for today, and I am going to talk to you about voiceovers. I have been in the voiceover market for quite a while. I've actually started acting when I was younger, about 13, and I sort of morphed into this whole voiceover thing because when I was in college, I was a radio DJ, and I really loved being able to use my voice and talking and all of that, and just kind of fell into the voiceover market. So I'm here to talk to you about some basics about the voiceover market. So it's huge and open for lots of possibilities. So back a few decades ago, voiceover jobs were pretty narrow. You had to be perfect. Your voice had to be perfect. Everyone almost sounded the same. Also, most of the voiceover jobs were held by men, and that's definitely not the case now. There's a wide open market, like I said, and they're looking for all types of voiceover talent. So you don't actually have to have a perfect sounding voice, an announcer type of voice. If you kind of sound a little quirky, I promise you will work. So here's a couple of things that you need to know in order to sort of succeed in the business. So every single voiceover audition right now is done online. So if you have an agent, you'll get an email from your agent, and it'll have the breakdown, and you'll have to submit an MP3 or an MP4 file of your voiceover audition. Or if you're doing it via some type of casting network, you'll have to do the same thing. So number one, you'll need to know how to engineer your own sound and have basic editing skills to make the best impression on your client for your audition. So you kind of have to do some work. Editing is not that difficult. I just use for basic auditions, I just use GarageBand. Super easy. You don't have to really know a whole lot. Just press record and know how to cut and paste and delete and all of that, and you are good to go. The second thing is good communication and people skills. So some of your clients are going to be in another city. So if, say for instance, I have an account with Park City, Utah, and I do all of their touring voiceover commercials. So they don't come out to Phoenix to work with me, they're on the phone with me. So I'm in the studio, I hear them over, my headphones, and I take direction that way. But there is some bantering back and forth, and you have to have a really good personal communication skill happening with your client so that they kind of like that. Also, one thing that you have to understand too is if you're on a job, sometimes the clients will want to come, and you of course have to meet them. Even though this is voiceover and it's just your voiceover, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be behind a curtain the entire time. You actually have to interact with people. And you also have to be able to adjust sometimes to that person that might be a client that has never directed anything before, but they kind of know the way that things need to sound for the commercial. So it's a little bit difficult for them sometimes to get across what it is that they want to say. So you have to be able to adjust and work with them. All right, so the third thing is an entrepreneurial mentality. So you're your own boss. You have to know how to market yourself. This business is huge. There's so many people in the voiceover world, and you just have to get out there. And just like dance, you know how big of a market dance is. Voiceover is equally as big. So if it's something that might interest you, you have to kind of like shift focus a little bit. Think about the way that you promote your dance and promote your voice that way as well. So the fourth thing is having good voiceover copy reading skills. So that's super important. You have to know how to read a script. So if you say, well, I have a great voice, I should be able to be a voiceover actor. That's not necessarily true. I mean, you can have the most rich, velvety sound, but if you can't read a script and you can't interpret that script, nobody's ever going to believe you. And your client's not going to want to put that out, and you won't get the job. The more natural that you sound when you're doing the voiceover stuff, the better, of course. So I do a lot of my research just by pretty much listening to commercials, TV shows, phone prompts, video games. I mean, basically anything where you hear a voice but you don't see a person, that's a voiceover work. And so when I get a script from my agent, I take a look at it and I sort of envision the way that the commercial is going to go. Most of the scripts that you'll get, you'll have two sides. You'll have the visual side, and then you'll have, of course, the audio side. The visual side will break down, each scene and let you know sort of what's happening visually. And then, of course, you have your voiceover stuff on the other side. And they both, are lined up for each take or each scene. So you sort of take a look at that, and if you can envision sort of the feel and the vibe of what the commercial or whatever the job is, what it sort of looks like, that sort of drives the way that you go ahead and audition and actually speak. So doing a lot of research, watching commercials instead of fast forwarding them. Yeah, I know. What? We have to watch commercials? Yes, you do. Or even listening to the radio. I mean, there are so many different voiceover possibilities. It's very important. Okay, so some of the tools that you will need. Of course, some sort of computer or laptop. That's really important. Now, number two, some good recording editing software. Now, like what I said before was GarageBand works great for basic auditioning. Now, if you are going to be in the market where you are not going to have an agent and you're going to go out on your own and you are going to be on one of these voice casting websites where the client directly contacts you and wants you to produce and engineer your own commercial, you're going to need a better software for all of that. GarageBand is good. It's not the best. So number three, and this is even for auditioning, you'll need to find a room with good acoustics. So one thing that I do have, I've got this little setup that has some little foam around me like this. So usually kind of like place a box in front of me. I'll have the foam around me this way. I'll have my microphone coming in on this side, and I'll have my script also in the foam area. And I'll usually do a lot of my auditions that way. And it just, when you go and you do that voiceover audition, you want to be able to sound the best that you possibly can. There are some times though where I'll be out of town and I won't have any of my equipment and I have to do my voiceover on my phone. And trust me, it makes me cringe so much. But there are a couple of jobs that I got that I actually submitted via like voice memo, or there's a couple of different recording apps, voice recording apps that you can get on your phone. So it does work, but I kind of like to sound my best and put my best foot forward so that they hear what it is that I actually sound like. Okay, so that's the room. Also, when you do it, if you don't have any type of a foam, for the acoustics, you can put a towel over a table. Heavy curtains work as well. So just some ideas so that the noise doesn't bounce off the walls and create an echo. So the next thing that you will need is a good microphone. Guys, this is the single most important thing that you possibly can have as far as like stepping into the voiceover world is investing in a good microphone. So do your research. There's a ton of models out there. Also know what it is about your voice that is kind of the nails on the chalkboard sort of thing. Sometimes people pop their P's or their B's or their K's, and those are called plosives. And so there's certain microphones that that kind of eliminate those P's and B's, so that when you're actually speaking, and if you do have a word that starts with plosives, you're not popping that P. So a lot of you might have seen like the screen that goes in front of the mic, like in studios. That screen is for that, for popping P's. So if you ever get a job, I don't know that I've ever been in a job for a voiceover where I didn't have the screen in front of the microphone. I think it's just gonna happen. Okay, so the next thing we can talk about is agent or no agent. To say that you need an agent to start doing voiceovers isn't necessary anymore. There's so many online platforms that I talked about earlier, where you can showcase your talent, audition for jobs, and get booked. Now, while it's nice to not have an agent, there are a lot of things that you will have to do yourself. Like I said, you will end up having to most likely engineer your own commercial and produce your own work, sending it out. You'll have to do negotiating for yourself. Also, a lot of online platforms that I've noticed as far as auditions go, they pay probably between 10 and 25% of what an actual voiceover gig coming from an agent will pay. So just kind of be prepared for that and know that you might get more work. You know, it might be like an hourly rate where they'll say, we'll pay you $25 an hour, you know, to do this spot. Whereas if you get booked by an agent, and they do all the negotiating for you, you show up into a studio to do a professional recording, you might get somewhere between $200 and $300 for that hour. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends upon, you know, what you want to do. I'm sure initially you might want to start out by not having an agent, because sometimes it's hard to get a voiceover agent if you don't have any work. So, and I guess sort of too, it depends on where you're at. If you don't live in one of the major markets, you might have to do all of the work by yourself. So, next thing we'll talk about is a demo tape. So it is important for you to get a demo tape together to talk about or to show clients what it is that you are capable of as far as a voiceover actor goes. Now, usually, ideally, your demo tape consists of jobs that you've already done. Super easy to do that. You just contact the production company or the studio that you did the voiceover work at, and you say, hey, can I get that copy of that blah, blah, blah commercial that I did with you a couple of months ago? Most of the time, they'll email it to you, so then you're good to go. If you don't have any jobs and you're just starting out, well, guess what? You have to be creative. So what you want to do is, you as your own brand, you have to kind of decide where you sort of fit in as far as your acting for voiceovers goes. So are you more of a spokesperson type of actress or actor, an announcer? Are you more of a character actor? You know, do you have a really thick accent? Can you do accents? Do you have more of a character voice that would be more of a cartoon character? Are you just kind of like a typical person that, really just sounds pretty normal? You sort of have to know where you fit in. And then find commercials and find things out there that sort of you think fit your sort of brand. And then just literally like get inspired by that, be creative, come up with a concept, come up with a script. The biggest thing that you need to do as far as your demo tape is concerned is making it sound good. So if you want to invest in a really great microphone, I totally recommend that. Otherwise, if you're just starting out and you're like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do, but I really wanna do this, maybe rent some space at a studio, recording studio nearby, and also rent a sound engineer. And what they can do is they can help you edit everything together. Now you'll go in and you'll have all of your copy already of whatever it is that you want to say. And then you have the engineer sort of record you and make you sound the best that you possibly can. So sometimes don't think that it's just your voice that needs to be there. Make it sound like an actual commercial or an actual video game or an actual TV show. So you might want to add some music. There might be, other actors. There might be some sound effects. But the more creative that you can get, the better. Sometimes though, you don't want to like overly crowd your voice, but you don't want to just have dead air and then you speaking over dead air. So maybe it's some sort of really soothing music. If it's something, say, you have a nice rich voice and you're doing something for a massage spa type of place. Or it could be you're doing, a demo tape. One of the things that one of the commercials that you're highlighting is a demo tape for a casino. It's nice and, music and everything's live and, and then you sort of fit in your voice with whatever kind of music is happening. I personally love to be able to hear some of the things that are happening in the commercial behind my voice. That sort of drives me and which way I want to approach my voice and the way that I'm delivering the script. So yeah, it's a great market. I love doing voiceovers. I love being able to take a script and being able to interpret it. A very scary thing though about auditioning for voiceovers is you don't get that immediate direction that you do, say, if you go in for a live audition, for an on-camera thing. You don't have the director saying, okay, well, let's do that again, but let's have you do this instead. So when you get the script for a voiceover audition, you are your own director. You are the person that has to decide what it sounds like, the approach that you're doing, even though they may give you descriptions about what it is that they want, you sort of have to follow that, but know that that's the way that you're headed. And then listen and go, am I actually being, that paranoid person? Do I sound paranoid? Or, do I sound soothing? Or do I sound informative? And you sort of have to be your own director. But it's fun. If you, one of the things that I have to tell you is a lot of people are like, oh my God, I could never do voiceovers because I don't like the way that my voice sounds. Well, I didn't like the way my voice sounded either until I decided that I wanted to try to be a radio DJ. And I worked a lot on my voice. I would do a lot of tongue twisters. I would do a lot of, breath techniques throughout, like the course of time. I would really pay attention to my tone, where it was that I was taking my voice from my diaphragm versus, the being a little bit more nasally and taking it from up there, or, the pitch of my voice too, and the more that I worked on it, the more that it became something that I really sort of connected to. And couple that with the fact that I was already acting and had done many, many jobs and really loved the business. This is sort of where my true love lies. So, as far as acting goes, tap, I love tap too. Don't get me wrong. So thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it. And I know that I did a CDI workshop last year for UCSB over on the West Coast. I taught tap, and I also did a voiceover class. So if you're interested in it, I don't know, maybe I'll see you in the future. Bye guys, stay safe.